Muy bien, Fundamentos de Español, lección 2. Entonces, aquí vamos a repasar el verbo estar para hablar de condiciones, posición y emociones. Vamos a repasar la forma de usted. Vamos a aprender un poco de la pronunciación de la letra U y varias pronunciaciones nuevas. ¿Qué versus cuál? Y descripciones físicas. Muy bien, entonces, la letra U. So there are some interesting rules associated with this that you need to learn. Typically, it's going to produce like the oo sound, like the double O sound in English, right? So we would pronounce these words, repeat after me. Cuba.
Cuba.
Uno.
Uno.
Mucho.
Mucho.
Pretty straightforward, right? Now, if the first word is the letter C, and then the third letter, or rather, if the letter U comes between a C and an I or an A, it will essentially produce like the W sound, okay, like our English W sound. So here, we're not saying cuidado, right? Because this is what's called a diphthong. It kind of gets mangled together, and so it's just qui. Right, qui. So it's a unique sound. This particular combination of UI is qui. So this would be, repeat after me, cuidado.
Cuidado.
And then same thing with the UA, qua. Cuando.
Cuando.
Okay. All right, the next one. If we see these little two dots over the U, and this is not going to be very common, but it will also produce that W sound, okay, like our English W sound. So linguista,
Linguista.
and then bilingüe.
Bilingüe.
Muy bien. Again, very rare, but it's there. Okay, now, if the letter U comes between a Q and an E or an I, or a G and an E or an I, it will be silent. This particular combination of letters essentially cancels out the letter U, okay? So we've actually seen some of these words in the past, like K, right? K.
Okay.
And then we have quien.
Quien.
The next word is guerra.
Guerra.
Then guía.
Guía.
So it'll take some getting used to, but I just wanted to point out to you.
Guía.
Guía is a guide.
Okay.
Okay. Continuing forward, we've got the word what to talk about. In English, you know, it's pretty straightforward. But when we go to translating between Spanish and English, again, this is where it doesn't translate 100%. Typically speaking, what would be K and K would be what, and then qual would be which. However, there are just certain instances where we would say what, like what is your name? And in Spanish, we're saying qual for whatever reason. So these are things that you just kind of have to pay attention to as you're learning the language and try and, you know, learn when to use it. So for example, Lea, ¿cuál es tu nombre?
Mi nombre es Lea.
Y Carly, ¿qué te gusta comer?
Me gusta. Oh wait, am I translating the sentence or answering?
No, just answer it. Yeah.
Okay. Me gusta como.
Me gusta comer.
Me gusta comer la pizza.
Y Sky, ¿qué te gusta tomar?
Me gusta tomar café.
¿A qué te dedicas, Lea?
¿Te dedicas? No, soy dedicas.
Just soy.
Yo soy informática.
Muy bien. ¿Y qué te hace reír, Carly?
Reír to laugh.
Sí,
Mi gato.
muy bien. Ok. Entonces, vamos a repasar el verbo estar. Yo,
Estoy.
Estoy.
tú,
Está.
Estás.
él,
Está.
Esta.
ella,
Esta.
está. Punch it on the end there. Está. Usted,
Está.
nosotros,
Estamos.
Lea, vosotros,
Estáis.
estáis,
Estáis.
tenés. Ellos,
Están.
ellas,
Están.
ustedes.
Están.
Muy bien.
Is the
So-
accent mark above the A? Does that like signify where we should put the emphasis? Like you
Yep.
just mentioned on está. Okay.
Yeah. So normally the emphasis falls on the second to last syllable unless there's an accent mark, and that means you have to shift the emphasis.
Cool. Thank you. Gracias.
So estar is, as I mentioned, I believe yesterday, we have two verbs that mean to be in Spanish. Unfortunately, they have their uses that you have to learn, you have to memorize. And this is not 100% set in stone. There are certainly some gray areas here for our, what I would call our English brains. But the general loose rule is that the verb estar is used to talk about temporary states of being. So that can be represented with this PLACE acronym, standing for position, location, action, condition, and emotion. ¿Cómo está el café? Sky.
El café está caliente.
Right. So it's a temporary condition. Right now it's hot, but what happens to coffee when you leave it sitting there for 15 minutes? It gets cold, right? Pretty easy to warm back up though, right? You just pop it in the microwave and it's hot again, right? So it can easily go back and forth, right? It can easily change conditions. Sky asked a question to Leia, and then we'll just go in the circle. Sky to Leia, Leia to Carly, Carly to Sky.
Lea, ¿cómo está el agua?
El agua está fría. Carly, ¿cómo está el agua?
El agua está caliente.
So Carly, you
Oh,
asked.
sorry. All right. Sky, ¿cómo estás después de comer?
Yo estoy muy lleno.
Mhm. And then just so you know, Sky, you would change that to llena for you.
Llena.
¿Qué significa llena?
Full.
Full.
Oh, I'm sorry, Lea, ¿cómo
Right.
está? Is it me?
Yeah, Sky to Leia.
¿Cómo está la caja?
Caja.
Caja.
La caja está vacía. Carly, ¿cómo está ella?
Ella está cómoda. ¿Cómo está ella?
Ella está incómoda. Lea, ¿cómo está tu carro?
Mi carro está sucio. Carly, ¿cómo está la ropa?
La ropa está seca. ¿Cómo están los perros?
Los perros están mojados. Lea, ¿cómo está el señor?
El señor está limpio. Carly, ¿cómo está el monstruo de Frankenstein?
Él está vivo.
Carly.
Oh, sorry. ¿Cómo está la botella, Sky?
I have to look up this word. Empty.
Or you could just
¿Cómo?
ask, ¿cómo se dice?
¿Cómo se dice empty?
Vacío. So
Vac-
vacío, but you have to do something to that because we're talking about la botella, right?
Yeah, so la botella está vacía.
Muy bien.
Lea, ¿cómo está la bolsa de dinero?
¿Qué significa la bolsa?
The bag.
Oh, la bolsa de dinero está llena,
Llena.
llena.
Llena, porque es la bolsa.
I have a hard time with the two L's. Carly, ¿cómo está la pizarra?
La pizarra está, ¿cómo se dice? Clean? Is that what we're meaning here?
Mhm. Limpio.
Limpio. La pizarra está limpia.
Muy bien. Oh,
¿Cómo está el perro?
El perro está sucio. Lea, ¿cómo están el té y el café?
El té y el café están calientes.
and make it plural. Calientes.
Calientes. Carly, ¿cómo están las cervezas?
Las cervezas están fríos. Frías.
Ahí está.
Frías. Sky, ¿cómo está la muchacha?
La muchacha está cómoda. Cómoda.
Muy bien.
Lea, ¿cómo está el hombre?
El hombre está incómodo.
Incómodo.
Incómodo. Carly, ¿cómo está Buffalo Bill?
Buffalo Bill está, ¿cómo se dice? Would it be dead? Dead?
Muerto.
Muerto. Buffalo Bill está muerto. ¿Cómo estás?
Yo estoy. What is that?
We're looking for alive.
Alive. Okay. Yo estoy viva.
Muy bien.
Lea, ¿cómo estamos nosotros?
Nosotros estamos mojados.
Perfecto.
Carly, ¿cómo están las flores?
Las flores están secos.
Las flores.
Las flores están secos.
So you need to do something to secos because it's las flores.
Secoses?
Secas.
Oh, secas.
Secas because it's
Oh, okay.
That's what I was
So
saying.
flores is okay. Las flores están secas.
Yeah. So just because of the function of this verb, because we're talking about states of being, the verb estar is almost always going to get paired with an adjective, right? So you have to do that masculine, feminine, singular, plural thing in your head on the fly as you're doing this. So we're going to get that down in this level. Muy bien. Sky, ¿cómo te gusta la cerveza?
Me gusta cerveza. Oh, me gusta cerveza fría.
Me gusta la cerveza fría.
Me gusta la cerveza fría.
Carly, ¿cómo te gusta el agua?
Me gusta el agua fría.
Good, you got it. This is a trick. It's el agua, but agua is feminine, so it would be fría here. El agua fría. ¿Cómo te gusta el café, Lea?
Me gusta el café caliente.
¿Cómo te gusta tu casa?
Me gusta mi casa limpia.
Lea, ¿cómo te gustan tus hijos?
Me gustan mis hijos felices.
Felices. ¿Cómo te gusta tu cuenta bancaria, Carly?
¿Qué significa cuenta bancaria?
Your bank account.
Ah, me gusta mi cuenta bancaria llena.
Llena, muy bien.
Llena.
Sky, ¿cómo te gusta estar?
Me gusta estoy feliz.
Me gusta estar feliz.
Me gusta, I like to be. Me gusta estar feliz.
Muy bien. ¿Cómo te gusta trabajar, Lea?
Me gusta trabajo.
Me gusta trabajar.
Me gusta trabajar.
Because you've got two verbs together, so you don't conjugate the second one.
And so is trabajar to work?
Uh-huh.
Okay. Me gusta trabajar cómodo.
Bien. Okay. All right. So talking about location, ¿dónde están las llaves? Where are the keys? Las llaves están en la mesa. So we're going to learn some new vocabulary to talk about household items here. But first, let's talk about this word in. The word in is another one of these helping connecting words known as a preposition. As we learned in the last level, like with por, that can mean multiple things. So in kind of can translate to in, on, or at, depending on exactly what we're talking about when we're talking about location. Okay. So here we've got some rooms in our house. So, and then items that we can find in the room. Entonces, se encuentra la televisión, el sofá y la chimenea en la sala. Do you understand all those words? Or let me know if you have a question here. See? Se encuentra la mesa, las sillas y los platos en el comedor. Se encuentra la cama, la almohada y la manta en el dormitorio.
¿Qué significa almohada y manta?
La almohada is the pillow. La manta would be the blanket.
Gracias.
En la cocina se encuentra el refrigerador, el gabinete y el horno. Y en el baño se encuentra la tina, el inodoro y la toalla. In some countries, they use la bañera y la poseta. I'm not exactly sure where. I think in certain parts of South America. But I've always learned those words as la tina y el inodoro.
¿Qué significa latina?
La tina is the bathtub.
Bathtub.
Y el inodoro is the toilet.
Mhm.
Very important words. Okay, so let's practice here. Leah to Carly.
Carly, ¿dónde está la televisión?
La televisión está en la sala. En la sala.
Muy bien.
¿Dónde está la mesa, Sky?
Está en la comedor.
Perfecto.
En el comedor.
En el comedor.
El comedor. Lea, ¿dónde está la cama?
Está en la dormitorio.
El dormitorio.
Está en el dormitorio. Carly, ¿dónde está la refrigeradora?
Está en la cocina. ¿Dónde está la tina, Sky?
Está en el baño. Lea, ¿dónde está el sofá?
Está en la sala. Sala.
Sala.
Carly, ¿dónde están las sillas?
Están en el comedor. ¿Comedor? ¿Dónde están las almohadas, Sky?
Están en el dormitorio. Lea, ¿dónde están los gabinetes?
Están en la cocina. Carly, ¿dónde está el inodoro?
Está en el baño. ¿Dónde está la chimenea, Sky?
Está en la sala. Lea, ¿dónde están los platos?
Están en la comedor.
En el comedor.
En el comedor.
Y también, here we can say, yeah, okay.
Carly, ¿dónde está la manta?
Está en en el dormitorio. ¿Dónde está el horno, Sky?
Está en la cocina. Oh, ¿qué significa horno?
El horno is the oven.
Okay. Lea, ¿dónde están las toallas?
Están en la baño.
El baño.
Están en el baño.
Siguen.
Carly,
Yeah, Carly.
¿dónde estás?
Estoy en la cocina, technically. Sky, ¿dónde están tus padres?
Están en Loveland. Lea, ¿dónde está tu casa?
Where is your house? Mi casa está en Denver.
¿En trabajo? ¿Y trabajo?
How do you say the same thing? Like,
Lo mismo.
sorry?
Lo mismo. So in this situation, however, though, you'd say mi trabajo está en el mismo lugar. En el mismo lugar.
Mi trabajo está en mi lugar.
En el mismo lugar.
Mismo lugar. Carly, ¿dónde está el baño?
Está en, ¿cómo se dice? The hallway.
En el pasillo.
En el pasillo. Pasillo. ¿Dónde están tus llaves, Sky?
¿Qué significa llaves?
Your keys.
Oh, that's right. Están en mi casa. Lea, ¿dónde está tu dinero?
Están en el
Banco. Muy bien. Ok, siguen adelante. Ahora, notice here we're changing from donde to como. Okay, so it changes the meaning.
Carly, ¿cómo estás?
Estoy bien. Sky, ¿cómo están tus amigos?
Están contentas. Lea, ¿cómo está tu casa?
Está limpio.
Limpia.
Limpia. I'll never get this. All right. Carly, ¿cómo está la calle hoy? Hoy?
¿Qué significa la calle?
La calle is the street.
The street. Okay, so what would this mean technically? Like, how-
Well, it rained last night, so you could say.
Oh,
está mojada,
okay.
for example.
Like checking in with the streets. Okay.
You could use it that way too. Yeah.
So-
You
okay.
say está caliente, like there's a lot of drama going on. A lot
Got it. Okay.
But no, here it's more like como,
Okay.
como is it?
Got it. Okay. So la calle está seca.
Okay, bien.
Seca. Right? ¿Cómo están tus padres, Sky?
Mis padres están contentos. Lea, ¿cómo está el café de McDonald's?
Está caliente. Carly, ¿cómo están los novios?
Novios is cousins?
Los novios, that would be the bride and the groom.
Oh, los novios. Los novios están contentos. Contentos.
I was looking for enamorados, but that, well, I'll take it.
Enamorados. ¿Cómo está tu gabinete?
Gabinete de alcohol.
Gabinete de alcohol. Alcohol.
El gabinete está lleno.
Lleno, porque es el gabinete.
Okay, el gabinete. Lea, ¿cómo está el presidente hoy?
Está bueno.
And you could say está bien.
Está bien. Está bien. Está bien. Okay. Carly, ¿cómo está Elvis en tu opinión?
En mi opinión, Elvis está muy bien.
No está muerto.
Yeah, sí.
Okay. Okay, cuéntanos de ti. So that means tell us about yourself. So we can actually do this is just a little writing activity, okay, to work on that too. I'll give you my example. Yo vivo en Denver. Hablo con mis padres cada fin de semana. Enseño español y aprendo portugués. Escribo correos electrónicos todos los días a mis clientes. Recibo cheques en el correo. Me gusta comer comida cubana. También me gusta correr en el parque y caminar en las montañas. Okay, so I've just got some suggested verbs you can use over here on the right side. Everybody try and take 5 to 10 minutes. Try and write about 8 sentences about your daily/weekly routine here. Let me know if you have any questions, okay? And please tell me when you're finished.
¿Cómo se dice often or a lot?
Mucho.
¿Cómo se dice cafe or coffee shop? Would it just be cafe still?
You got it. Some people would call it a cafeteria, but you'd be fine just saying el cafe.
Is coffee also cafe?
Cafe.
Okay.
I think I'm finished.
I'm good too.
Okay. Leia, vamos a empezar contigo.
Yo vivo en Denver. Hablo con mis hijos mucho. Aprendo español y italiano. Hablo con mis colegas mucho. Me gusta comer comida francesa.
Francesa. Muy bien.
Francesa. Literalmente francesa. Francesa. Me gusta cocinar con mis amigos. Me gusta caminar en el parque y me gusta beber el café.
Bien. Gracias, Leia. Carly?
Yo vivo en Broomfield. Soy de Oklahoma y me gusta viajar a mis padres, traveling to my parents.
Yeah, me gusta viajar a visitar a mis padres.
A visitar mis padres. Yo soy escritora y escribo o escribir.
Y yo escribo.
Yo escribo anuncios digitales. I looked that one up. Estoy casada y mi esposo es
Estoy casada.
casada. Estoy casada y mi esposo es Nick. Nosotros hablamos y bailamos. Me gusta tomar café y me gusta hablar con mis amigas en la café.
Ok, muy bien. Y Sky.
Yo vivo en Denver. Yo estudio español cada día. Trabajo 5 días de semana. Y yo hablo con mis amigos Mary cada de semana. And me gusta aprender español con mi clase.
Excelente. All right, so just want to give you guys the opportunity here to ask me some questions if there's any custom vocabulary or phrases that you would like to learn how to say, particularly about where you work or your workspace, but anything else that comes to mind.
How do you say video conference, or do they just say Zoom?
Yeah, so remember to say, ¿cómo se dice?
¿Cómo se dice video conference?
Yeah, conferencia de video, conferencia web. Conferencia
practice.
en línea también puede ser, conferencia en línea.
¿Cómo se dice wall stud?
I'm sorry?
¿Cómo se dice wall stud?
Wall stud.
Montante de pared is something I found online. Does that sound familiar from your experience?
Yeah, I mean, so I don't have the most specific vocabulary there that you're looking for because, but I'll come back to you with that.
Yeah, and these are so esoteric that it's like probably not very useful to the class, but
I'm also interested.
What did you say the translation you looked up? I don't think that sounds right.
yeah, it may not be. It was montante de pared.
Yeah, so I believe you're referring to a wall stud in terms of like the 2x2, the 2x4 that runs up and down the wall, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
And montante is going to be something that you mount something on. So,
Oh, okay.
so I don't believe that's the right translation there, right? So I'm not exactly sure how they would refer to the stud that you're trying to refer to it. So let me do a little research on that for you, Sky.
Okay, thank you.
¿Cómo se dice window?
La ventana.
¿Cómo se dice like bureau, like in this picture over on the right with the drawers?
Yeah, un gabinete.
Gabinete.
Or you could also say, because it's got drawers, los cajones. Los cajones. Careful with that one. Make sure you pronounce it the right way.
How do you spell it? ¿Cómo se deletrea?
All right, so we've seen in the past caja, right? C-A-J-A for box. So we're just changing the ending to C-A-J-O-N-E-S, cajones. So it
I'm just
sounds
gonna
like the
delete
box.
that one from my brain right now. I'm just like, nope, you don't get to remember.
Yeah,
that.
right.
Yeah. Do not put yourself in that situation. Just forget it. Gabinete.
Yeah, that would be funny.
In my job, we work with a lot of small businesses and they use card readers, like a credit card reader. What would be, when we normally translate it, it comes out to like credit card machine.
Sí, la máquina
Mm-hmm.
para escanear tarjetas.
Tarjetas. Okay.
I don't know if you could say el escaneador. But I would say la máquina. So máquina just means machine. So that can be kind of a versatile word where you'll be, it'll be understood in context. But that would be another good one for me to look into for you.
Gracias.
¿Cómo se dice difference, as in like difference between?
La diferencia.
Okay, so
And then you'd say la diferencia entre cosa A o cosa B.
okay, so ¿qué es la diferencia entre piso y suelo?
It's more or less the same. So I guess piso could also, so they both mean floor for everybody here. Piso and suelo are both floor. Piso can also be used to refer to like the third floor, the fourth floor, the fifth floor. I don't believe I've ever heard suelo used in that way. So that might be one of the differences between those two words.
Okay. Gracias.
¿Cómo se dice elevator? I'm thinking about the floors now.
El elevador or el ascensor? Elevador. Let me write that one for you. It's a tricky one.
It's the same in French.
Ascensor, I believe, is the
Mm.
correct spelling on that. So I'm not exactly sure which one they use in Spain. Because that tends to be kind of one of those regional things where depending on the country you're in, they use one versus the other. Bien, so yeah, again, I'd like to continue to remind you just to keep a list. If you're doing the notebook that we talked about from the last in our last course, right, where you have a dedicated list of custom vocabulary words that you're working on, keep working on that list. Anything related to whatever you want to learn how to say in Spanish, and feel free to send that check in with me from time to time, ask about things to make sure it's correct, or ask me how to say certain things. As we can see, I don't know every single word in Spanish, right? Because I'm a Spanish teacher. I'm not necessarily, I teach, I've lived in Latin America, but like when I was living in Argentina, I wasn't working on wall studs. So don't necessarily know how to say what a wall stud is, right? And so some of these things, like I might, because of your industry or whatever, right, I might not know the word, but it'll be something that I can look into to find the right answer for you.
Well, even in our industry, there's so much disagreement about what people call certain things anyway. So it's like doubly confusing when it's a different language, because, everyone has a different word for certain things.
But actually, now that we're talking about it, so I want to share this website with you. I believe it's Lingue or something like that, right? So what I really like about this website, I think it's better than Google, for instance. So let's just type in wall stud. Because what this does is it goes out and it scans a whole bunch of bilingual websites to see how people are El Pilar. It sees how people are actually translating it, right?
Oh, that's so cool.
That is so cool.
To say post, would you say pilar? Would that be equivalent to a post?
So they're calling the post the pilar here. So such as a wall stud, they're calling the pie derecho de la pared. That whole thing is what they're translating the wall stud to. They're calling the post the pilar, and then a metal frame is el armazón de metal. And the exterior wall stud cavities en la cavidad de los postes de los muros exteriores. So they're calling it here. So in the first one, they called it un pie derecho de la pared, and the second one, de los postes. So what I do here is I like to try and see if I can find a commonality here. Because if you look up here, stud, right? They're calling it a cimental, a taco, a travesaño, tapón, pasador, tachuela. So
that's the problem with stud, is that it's cimental. That would be like a horse stud.
That's exactly right.
Such a weird word to use.
So you don't want to, so.
At the top, can you also choose which Spanish it's looking at?
Meaning what? Do you mean?
If you scroll back up on your screen, sorry, where it says like English to Spanish, like is it saying like Spain Spanish? I wasn't sure if you could do like Mexico or Colombia.
No.
Oh, okay.
And that's why I like these translations, because sometimes you can see the websites here, right? Like if they have a certain ending. I'm not seeing any with the right ending here, but sometimes you'll see like the .co for Colombia or the .es for España. Wall stud locations.
So is muro generally understood to be an exterior wall and pared an interior wall?
Not necessarily. El muro is typically like a larger type of wall, like think of the Great Wall of China. That's the El Gran Muro de China. But like a regular wall, I would say, is a pared. Here they're calling it montante de pared. Montante de pared, montante de la pared. That's what you told you. That was the word that you told me you had looked up, right?
That's the one I found, yeah. I found a website that it was a guy who works in construction, and he had a list of construction terms and their Spanish translations.
Can you send that to me? I would love to. Yeah.
It's really cool. I'll send it to you for sure. But anyway, that's where I found it. But like I said, it changes even regionally, you know, how people describe certain.
It can, you know, and so like here also too, there's an interesting thing that you'll find. So if you're going out to a job site, while most people don't speak, like you'll find a lot of people won't be able to speak English to you or won't be able to have carry a conversation. This is where the Spanglish comes in, and they will like Englify, I don't know the right word to say it, right? They will turn those words into English words. So it would be my guess that people would understand wall stud if you want to, but you would have to like ask about it in Spanish, like ¿Dónde está el wall stud? Right?
Oh, gotcha.
People might be understanding it, but I'm seeing los montantes de la pared. So I wanted to do this just so you could see, like that didn't sound right to me when you told me montante de pared, because I'm looking here, like you see this first word is montar. That means to mount, right? So, but it could be, I can see how they might use that here, because what are you mounting things on? You're mounting things on the stud. So the stud has been turned into the mount. So this would just be a good place to, for words like this I like this website just because you can kind of see the different variations, but then you can see we found some, but look, these are all coming from the same website, Timberlake. So Timberlake may have used Google Translate to translate their website, right? Let's see if we can find credit card reader, right? Lector de tarjeta de crédito, un lector de tarjeta de crédito.
Yeah.
And so here we go. So this is the one that I was looking for. So this is the Spain website where they're probably translating from Spanish into English. And we can see here they're using the word lectura de tarjeta, right?
Todo tipo, ¿qué significa todo tipo?
All kinds, all types. Here's a European website, so we can assume that that's the native way of saying it, right? Un lector de tarjeta. So they're calling it a lector de tarjeta, which makes sense because to read, a reader is lector, right? Lectura is literature. Leer is to read.
Got it.
So yeah. So check this website out. Lingue, LAENGUAA.com. I like that website for when I'm doing translation work. Bien.